Hi everyone, it's Jen again, and I'm back with a weekly update on my development process. This week, I've actually spent the majority of the time working on writing dialogue and narration, but I did spend a little bit of time taking a break from all that writing by doing some new artwork for some new skills that will be added to the game. And it's really probably one of my favorite things to do when I'm trying to like break up my fatigue with like writing, because I can just kind of zone out. I can listen to my favorite podcast or documentary, and then I can just kind of like relax and draw, and it's a lot of fun for me. Drawing used to be like a pretty angsty and just laborious process that I used to feel a lot of frustration with. And I don't know if that's why I still have such heavy lines, if that's like some sort of like leftover like frustration when I used to like just really tear into the paper when I drew. But for whatever reason, I have a very heavy hand when I draw. Um, and I used to get kind of like wrist and hand cramps actually because of how it was sort of like just kind of like tight, uh, just how much tension I had in my hand when I was like trying to ink, because like every line was like a fight. And I'm sort of just thankful that I'm a place in my life right now where I can draw without everything being such a battle, and just like mentally and physically. That it's just I've been able to kind of enjoy drawing in a way that like I just never was able to when I was doing it professionally. When I was doing it, I guess for like paid work, and these days, like it's just it's just sort of like a relief that I don't have to really think about it and I don't really have to struggle with it. Like I don't know how to describe it other than that, except for like when I think back, like 20 years ago, I would have never guessed that I would ever come to a place like this. Like it's not that I thought I was so terrible back then that I would like never get better. I think it was just that like I was so used to drawing being like a struggle that I couldn't imagine there would be a day where it wasn't a struggle. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, I have this vivid memory that I was having while I was working on these artworks of like looking at the Breath of Fire manual, because like back in the days of like Super Nintendo games and PlayStation 1 games, you would buy a game and it would come with like a color instruction manual that would have like these character artworks and like these usually dynamic, interesting poses, but you would get a good like you would get a good full body shot of like their entire character design. And I used to love like flipping through those books and looking at those artworks, and I always found them so inspirational. But at the same time, I would also get kind of like depressed because I would try to draw like character art for designing my own characters, and I would just feel like it didn't match like the level of the character art that I was inspired by. And I just remember like being in my room, being in like middle school when I started getting inspired by this stuff, and just thinking that I would never get to a point where like I would be able to like draw at the same level. Like not necessarily that I wanted to draw like the exact um, style or the exact character design. It was more like a quality thing where it's like I never felt like I would reach a level where I would become comfortable and like proud of myself at the quality of like work that I could create. And I don't know if that makes me sound like arrogant now to say that I'm just like happy with like where I'm at, and it's no longer like a struggle for me to sit there and like just be like beating myself and berating myself and being like, this is like not what I want to look like. It's not what I have in my head. It's not like cool like the way I want it to be, or like it's the anatomy's not right, or the pose is not right, or the costume or the character design is not like appealing, and just whatever flaws. I'm not saying that my artwork is perfect now, but I'm just like happy with my art. Like I feel like if I showed my artwork to my 13, like 12-year-old self now, like that I'm drawing now, that I would, my inner like 12-year-old self would be like happy with where I'm at. So it's taking me a long time to get there, but for anybody who might be struggling with their artwork, like if you do continue to if you continue to work at it, you can get to a place where not everything is such a struggle. And, maybe you do have to go through that time period of like self-loathing and frustration before you can get to a place where you are feeling competent and feeling confident enough in your work. Maybe it's unavoidable to have to go through all that negative feelings and all that like struggle. Maybe that's part of what gets us to a better place, is going through those like hardships. I don't know. I just know that for so many decades I never thought that I would get to a place that I am now, where not so much like the quality of my art, but just like the just being able to enjoy, I think, doing what I'm doing at the level that I'm enjoying it, and like just being like relatively like pleased with the outcome. Like again, it's not perfect or anything, but I'm satisfied with like where I'm at with what I'm doing. And I feel like, again, like if I were to show this to myself, like when I was in that time of like being highly inspired by different artists and different work, and feeling like my own work would sort of more easily influenced because I didn't have like my own style and approach to doing things at that time. Like I would hope to think that I would have been an inspiration to myself, and maybe like showing my process now can hopefully be somewhat of an inspiration to other people who might be like struggling. I don't know. I just know that like I used to be really embarrassed of like showing my process because I am sloppy. I'm all over the place. I'm very slanted. So like most artists have some type of a skew where when we're drawing and we're kind of seeing things, things are not quite like what we think they are. And that's one of the reasons why it's really helpful to like flip your artwork after you've been staring at it for a while, is to occasionally like look at it in a mirror, or if you're working in a program like Procreate, just kind of flip it on the horizontal axis, because you will be able to see kind of like flaws that you weren't able to see when you were kind of like staring at it for so long. And then I guess after you've been doing this for a while, you'll kind of start to realize that like, oh, I have a tendency to like think that something is symmetrical or balanced when it's actually like skewed in like one direction. And so I have a very heavy skew that I am blind to, unless I kind of like periodically flip my artwork and like check. So you'll see like when I'm doing my artwork that I'll sort of like make these little minor adjustments where I kind of like move stuff around a little bit, or do some type of like a transformation to a certain part of the line work. Is probably because I had flipped the artwork and I had saw that like, oh, their eye is a little off to the side or something. Like it doesn't look quite right when I look at it reversed, because I have that really strong skew. And I think that it's nothing really to be like embarrassed about. Like I don't have a good sense of like spatial awareness. I don't know how else to put it. Like I'm not good at drawing on model without doing a lot of like double checking. Like I don't have a natural tendency to be able to see something and replicate it. Like I know some artists who work really well from photographs and they can draw like very photorealistic kind of stuff, and not to say that they were like born being able to do that, but they do have like definitely a better sense of like being able to see and judge and replicate like shapes relationship wise to each other, versus I feel like that's something that I've always kind of struggled with. One of the things I think is probably one of my better strengths is that I think my lines do have kind of like a fluidity or a flowiness to them, and it's probably been reinforced by my animation training. But I've always had kind of like flowy lines. Even when I was young, I would kind of like sketch like very heavy handed, but like my lines were always kind of like these, I don't know, these curvy lines that always kind of like conveyed like a certain sense of like motion or emotion to them. So I think that's kind of where my strong suit is, which is one of the reasons why I'm no longer like really embarrassed with how like rough and like crazy my sketches are, because I think that it sort of highlights in some ways better than my finished work where my strengths actually lie. Okay, well, I think I've babbled on about like just a bunch of random stuff. I just didn't want the weekend to pass me by without checking in and letting you guys know how I'm doing and wishing you well. Hope you have a good week and keep enjoying the process. Take care. Bye bye.